The truth that nobody tells you is that your feeling crazy is the only sane response to the insanity of narcissistic abuse. If you didn't feel crazy, that, my friend, would be far more concerning. Why? Because there is no way to not feel crazy when your brain has been marinating in the chaos of the narcissist strategically irrational, nonsensical, and illogical madhouse. It is like being in a fairy tale from the crypt written by Stephen King on bath salts. There ain't no happy in that ever after, but more like forever fucked. Which is why narcissistic abuse deserves its own category, an existential neurological singularity, a black hole with consequences so profound because you don't just lose yourself, you watch it happen. So stick with me, because I'm going to explain what really did happen to you, what most experts miss, that will change how you see everything that you've survived. And by the end of this video, you're gonna wanna shout, "Sweet baby Jesus!" That is what I'm talking about. Think of it like your brain becoming hostage to General Mindfuck, skull squatting drill sergeant from hell, and kind of like the relentless, persistent nature of flesh-eating bacteria that spreads quickly. Once they're in, they start moving everywhere. And the result is it doesn't feel like an intrusion. It feels like the truth. Because in a healthy brain where your inner critic is like a coach, maybe a little sharp, but corrects behavior and keeps you aligned, during narcissistic abuse, this critic mutates into kind of a Judge Judy on meth. You're not just wrong, you're worthless. But here's the kicker. It sounds like you. Their put-downs, projections, gaslightings, demeaning remarks get stitched into your inner monologue through your own linguistic pathways and stop properly encoding personal memories because retrieving them leads to punishment. So now every recall is dangerous. You become flooded with cortisol and your hippocampus, your memory processing center, literally shrinks, which is why it feels like your brain is Swiss cheese, because General MF is legit pumping holes in who you are. Your prefrontal cortex should reason with logic, but it gets outvoted by the general's megaphone. You know what they're screaming is objectively insane, but knowing it doesn't help when the loudest voice in your skull is wearing your voice like a Halloween mask. And that's why it feels exactly like you're being haunted, because they're everywhere and nowhere at the same time. Not by a ghost outside of you, but by the ghost that took up residence inside of your nervous system. And the most insidious thing about this skull invader is that they don't just influence you, they neurologically mimic being you. It's like a puppeteer behind your face. That's why you can't just disagree with Mindfuck Magoo, because your own evaluation, perspective, and prediction machinery have been colonized. Before you know it, they are the gravitational center of your entire inner world. Normally, in your DMN, it oscillates like a pendulum. Swinging left is inward focus, self-reflection, memory, identity, who you are. Swing right, it's outward focused, perspective, imagining others. The swing is what gives us balance. You are you, but you also live in a shared world. It's not that this pendulum gets stuck. It's that General Mindfuck is like the Energizer Bunny from hell with a megaphone, ensuring that every swing lands on them. Reflect inward, you find their evaluations. Look outward, everything collapses back to how they see you. They're not just in focus, they become the lens. And your reality construction gets hacked. The circuits defer automatically to their version. Perceptual binding becomes contingent on their framework. Even your fact-checking prefrontal cortex learns to submit. Your sleep architecture fragments. So now your dream-wake boundaries are collapsing. So it's not just the nightmare you can't wake up from, but you also dream about this nightmare. Reality feels warped, it feels wrong, and no matter how many times you pinch yourself to try to wake your ass up, this looping nightmare will continue because the pendulum is always landing on them. And this collapse of the line between dream and wake, theta rhythms are so haywire, blurring REM and non-REM sleep. So wake-like metacognition barges into dream states, and then dream logic spills back into waking life. Reality warps, distorts, and feels unreal. The predictive processing system that gives you casualty gets scrambled. The narrative integration circuit that stitched everything into a story is severed. So you don't just lose your story, you lose the neurological capacity to create any coherent story at all. So life literally stops making sense. Cause and effect dissolve. Past and future collapse into a perpetual void. So some of the behaviors you will likely notice arising from this are constant reinvention of new projects or abruptly abandoning goals or interests, because this continuity between who I was yesterday and who I'll be tomorrow is no longer there. We have resistance to planning or become disorganized. Calendars and 5-year plans feel alien or threatening. Even finishing a story becomes impossible because talking about the past or projecting into the future can trigger panic or blankness. Or you start telling the same story over and over as if trying to re-anchor it into time. You develop a compulsive checking, rereading, attempts to prove this precision exists, rewatching TV shows repeatedly, and have the same rituals and routine to reassure continuity. You'll have difficulty feeling excitement about the future because even good news feels numb because time projection is offline. Detachment to crisis, hyperfunctional during chaos but collapse when asked to look ahead. So give up on things that you enjoy because without time self-arc, you feel like a placeholder in your own life. When the time self-continuum is fractured, 10 minutes doesn't feel real. So running late seems to be your favorite cardio workout because when your brain can't pre-live, it only comes alive when the future collapses into the present and you get a jolt awake by adrenaline. But it's running late on fumes, emergency fuel that slowly burns your system out while the shame spiral deepens because you're constantly thinking, why can't I just be normal with time? But that's kind of hard when the clock itself has been stolen from your life. But this is where it starts becoming quite disturbing. The recursive metacognitive trap. Your brain is watching itself dissolve. Part of you knows you're disappearing. You feel yourself slipping, while other parts sit helpless, watching the self vanish in real time. Because you become both the vanishing self and the horrified witness to your erasure. You're aware of being erased. And here's what makes it uniquely nightmarish. It's not the numbing detachment of dissociation. It's not the fog of depersonalization. It's the opposite. Hyperconnectivity. Your monitoring system and your self system are locked into overdrive. Your inner voice becomes their voice, narrating your worthlessness. Your thoughts become surveillance system, monitoring for their disapproval. After they leave, it is complete ontological erasure. There is no you left to heal. Both your self-concept and your capacity to perceive others has been completely rewired, focused and homing in on them. There is no before to return to. Your autobiographical memory has been fragmented and rewritten. There is no forward to move toward. Your ability to generate future has atrophied. You don't just not recognize yourself. There is no self to recognize. This isn't emptiness. It is non-being, a living death. Because you don't just lose yourself, you watch it happen. It's like being buried alive in your own mind. Your mind becomes the crime scene where your identity was murdered. Your consciousness becomes the prison where you're serving a life sentence for the crime of existing. The greatest cruelty of all. Recovery requires a self to heal. You need identity to rebuild identity, like needing exist before existence. Because in order to rebuild, you have to have trust in safety. And your social engagement locked you in a permanent defense mode, so your vagus nerve reads all connections as danger. Conventional recovery assumes that you can co-regulate with others safely, tell safe from unsafe, maintain self in relationships. But after narcissistic annihilation, none of these apply. That is why therapy, friendships, even love itself feels broken or like a lie. So here you are standing in this smoking crater where your life used to be, holding a piece of self that doesn't exist anymore, trying to heal with tools that assume you still have a foundation to build on. Pretty fucking bleak, right? When everything is destroyed, and I mean everything, there's nothing left to lose. No old patterns to fight, no compromised system to work around, just pure, terrifying, exhilarating possibility. You're not recovering. You are not healing. You are about to do something way more radical than that. You are about to become the architect of your own resurrection. Now patch it up. Duct tape it together. This isn't another recovery roadmap. This is the manual to complete neurological and existential rebirth. And here's the plot twist that no one saw coming, including your own brain. It's not your greatest wound. It is your secret fucking weapon. Because you see, when you've been so thoroughly erased that you can't even recognize yourself in the mirror, something extraordinary happens that most people will never access. A backdoor to healing that's only available to those who've been completely demolished. Welcome to the ultimate paradox. Your destruction becomes your liberation. Here's the neurological magic. When your brain can't decide if its reflection is you or other, it gets confused. Because normally when you look at yourself, your brain goes, oh, that's me, and dials down the mirror neuron response to save energy. But in twilight zone states, almost like creating a third category, neither fully self nor fully other. And this hybrid state can activate both sides of these neural processing simultaneously. That most people never access this neural liminality because it literally is a superpower born from dissociation. So start by talking to this stranger in the mirror like they're your project partner while staring them in the eyeballs. Okay, so we're going to figure this out together. We've got this. Then gradually shift to I, giving yourself high fives and making different emotional faces in the mirror, building a richer web. Each one gets fragmented now into your GPS wholeness. Once this operating system starts feeling like you again, it's time to install the new software in this hijacked brain of yours. So you're going to activate multiple neural networks simultaneously like a neurological flash mob of general MF using nothing but your own two hands. But the kicker here is at once. Knead clay, draw with both hands, do finger exercises, light up both hemispheres and tells your survival brain, hey, we're creating, not just surviving over here. Narrate your process out loud like you've been hosting your own recovery show. I'm making this. Holy shit, I'm actually doing this. This brings your prefrontal cortex online and creates new meaning-making pathways. Checking your emotional weather constantly. How does this feel? What is this telling my body? Do I enjoy this? Connecting between action and feeling. And why this works is because the narcissist trained your brain to be a passive receiver in their reality. But this protocol turns you back into the active creator of your own experience. You're literally rewiring from victim consciousness to architecture consciousness. The key, though, is doing something new. Even if you liked cooking before, try a different recipe. Or if you liked playing the guitar before, learn a new song. Each combination creates a new real estate that they never touched. The vagal reset, teaching your nervous system to chill out. Your vagus nerve, this major highway between your brain and body, has been stuck in red alert and not been able to go back to safe mode for so long it forgot how to downshift. So it's time to teach it some new tricks, which literally can be humming, singing, gargling. These vibrations directly message your vagus nerve. Music becomes medicine. Rhythm and harmony provide your traumatized brain with predictability and safety signals. Start stupidly simple with the kneading dough while humming, origami while explaining each fold out loud, cooking while narrating, art while feeling, even juggling while laughing at yourself. Each combination creates new neural estates that were never touched. And it's the next step is the care circuit activation. Nurture something, a plant, a pet, even a sourdough starter. Caring behaviors unlock oxytocin and counter trauma emotional numbness. And watching things grow under your care, a new leaf, pet's affection, the rising bread, tangible proof that you can make good things happen. Step 4, graduated exposure plan. Comment in forums, join online accountability groups, practice giving and receiving acknowledgement, structured safety by volunteering, classes, groups with clear purpose and boundaries. Consistency over intensity is the key. Show up regularly in small, safe places rather than dividing into the deep end of social connection. You're cautious, and that caution is going to help you build better, safer relationships. Step 5. This one is huge. You are going to evict general mindfuck, getting that bitch out your head. As simple as the renaming game. Change their contact next to waste of oxygen. Change how you refer to them in your head. This isn't petty. It is a neurological disruption of old emotional pathways. The circuit breaker questions. When you catch yourself in a loop, interrupt the analytical questions. Would this require their seeing me as a human with intrinsic value? Is this thought serving my reality or theirs? What would someone who actually loved me say right now? But you've got to be honest with yourself. And if whatever it is you're coming up with requires them to see you as another human being with your own intrinsic value or worth is yes, then you're going to have to face it with brutal, harsh reality, because every time you try to humanize them or try to think of them out of your own moral framework and how you typically would, it throws a monkey wrench into the whole thing because it keeps you going down this rabbit hole, neural pathways that mindfuck Magoo has implanted into your brain keep getting reestablished, and you're never going to get rid of them that way. You're not recovering the old you. The person is gone. And good fucking riddance. They were built to survive in a reality that no longer exists. You're building something new, someone new, that can't be gaslighted because you know your own reality. You won't be able to be manipulated because you will be aware of the patterns. You can't be diminished because you've built yourself from scratch. The path forward, though, isn't linear. You're going to have setbacks, breakthroughs, and days when you feel like you're starting over. That is not failure. That is neuroplasticity in action. Your brain is learning to be yours again. Your thoughts are learning to serve you again. Your reality is learning to center itself around you and not them. The shattered pieces become a solid foundation. The annihilation becomes the ultimate liberation. And here's the beautiful fucking irony of it all. The narcissist who tried to erase you just gave you access to something they will never be able to achieve themselves. You had neural pathways for all those qualities that make us, well, human, empathy, object constancy, logic, relational subjectivity, trust, compassion, love, connection, a functioning conscience. The narcissist, they don't got them. Nada. Zero, zilch. They can't develop them because without the ability to see others as a separate being with intrinsic value and equal moral standing, their brain literally cannot construct these. They can mimic these things. They can perform them. They can manipulate the fuck out of them, but they can never actually feel them. They can never have what you're rebuilding right now. And you know what else they can't do? They can't destroy you completely because you're still here. You're still breathing. You're still standing, still willing to accept the truth when you hear it, despite their systemic campaign to annihilate your existence. That is not weak. That is the very definition of strength. That is what it means to survive. Survive something that most people can never even fathom. Starting from the total abyss of psychological annihilation. Every micro step, every time you hear that voice and you say, "Not today, motherfucker," that is not nothing. That is everything. So go start building the life that they tried to destroy, but didn't realize that they were planting a seed. Fight for you. Focus on you. Build for you. Fuck the narcissist, or whatever you want to call them.